常欢迎继续收看佛学英文这一堂课。Most welcome back to the Buddhist English class. And today we are going to tell you a story of how to comfort other people if other people are in sorrow, are very sad. Let's read this story first, and then we will explain. Repeat after me. One day, a mother lost her only child. She went to the Buddha in search of a remedy for her dead son, carrying the corpse. The Buddha agreed to help her if she could bring to him a bag of white mustard seeds. However, she had to obtain these mustard seeds from a house where no member had ever died. The distraught mother went from one house to another, asking if anyone had ever died in the house. The answer was always positive. Here, the grandmother died 3 years ago. There, the mother died by giving birth to her last child, etc. In every house, she was told, the living are few, but the dead are many. After a while, she understood the nature of life. She returned to the Buddha without the mustard seeds. The Buddha comforted her, explaining that death is common to all living beings. She understood that the life of human beings flickers like the light of the lamp, and she finally stopped weeping and accepted the death of her only child. To whom, to Tom, enlightenment is an alternative to life after life. During the time of the Buddha, there was a young monk called Nanda who did not understand the necessity for mindfulness. One day, Nanda began to cherish the idea of giving his best robe to the enlightened teacher, Sangara. Nanda was infatuated with the idea, thinking that it would be an act of great merit to show such generosity towards a spiritually developed being. He thought to himself, by this noble deed, surely I will soon obtain enlightenment. Because he was not yet well trained to mindfully watch the nature of his thoughts, Nanda did not recognize the selfish desire and attachment, which made his intentions impure. Repeat. One day, a mother lost her only child. She went to the Buddha in search of a remedy for her dead son, carrying the corpse. The Buddha agreed to help her if she could bring to him a bag of white mustard seed. However, she had to obtain these mustard seeds from a house where no member had ever died. The distraught mother went from one house to another, asking if anyone had ever died in the house. The answer was always positive. Here, the grandfather died 3 years ago. There, the mother died by giving birth to her last child, etc. In every house, she was told, the living are few, but the dead are many. After a while, she understood the nature of life. She returned to the Buddha without the master's cease. The Buddha comforted her, explaining that death is common to all different beings. She understood that the life of human beings flickers like the light of the lamp. And she finally stopped weeping and accepted the death of her only son. To womb, to tomb. Enlightenment is an alternative to life after life. During the time of the Buddha, there was a young monk called Nanda who did not understand the necessity for mindfulness. One day, Nanda began to cherish the idea of giving his best robe to the enlightened teacher, Sankara. Nanda was infatuated with the idea, thinking that it would be an act of great merit to show such generosity towards a spiritually developed being. He thought to himself, by this noble deed, surely I will soon obtain enlightenment. Because he was not yet well trained to mindfully watch the nature of his thoughts, Nanda did not recognize the selfish desires and attachment which made his intentions impure. Today, we are talking about a story how the Buddha was so clever in teaching. The Buddha was an enlightened being after sitting meditation under the Bodhi tree in Bodhigaya. The Buddha finally understood that everything is dependent originated. Therefore, he started teaching the Dharma, or the nature of everything, to the living beings. And in ancient time, people were so happy to have such an enlightened being. People began to ask the enlightened Buddha how to solve the problems of their life. One day, a mother lost her only child. Usually, a person dies at his old age, but occasionally, a person may die at a very young age. In this case, there was a mother, and this mother had only one son. Unfortunately, her only son died. Of course, this mother would be very sad to lose her only child. We understand the child is regarded as the life of the parents, in particular to the mother. The mother always loves her children. If a mother has only one child, the mother would like to show all her love to this only child. And we can understand that a mother would not accept the fact that her only child would die at such a young age. So this mother went to the Buddha in search of a remedy for her dead son carrying the corpse. We understand that there are two pillars in Buddhism. One is wisdom. The other is compassion. Wisdom would help the people out of the problems, and the compassion would push the people to help other people in order to solve the problems of life. And as the Buddha was very enlightened and was full of wisdom, the Buddha could give advice to all the people coming to him, asking for solutions to the problems of life. This young mother who lost her only child went to the Buddha, went to the place of the Buddha asking for advice or asking for the remedy, the medicine in order to solve her problems. She went to the Buddha in search of a remedy. Remedy means medicine. If we get sick, then we would go to see the doctor and asking for the medicine in order to cure our illness. This young mother went to the Buddha in search of a remedy for her dead son carrying the corpse. Corpse means the dead physical body of a certain person. The physical body of a dead person is called a corpse. This young lady went to the Buddha looking for a remedy, a medicine for her dead son, in the hope that this remedy, this medicine, would cure the death of her only child. This mother carried the corpse of her only child with her in order to ask the Buddha to help her cure the death of her son. The Buddha agreed to help her if she could bring to him a bag of white mustard seeds. The Buddha was very compassionate. She would help anyone who came to him asking for help. However, the Buddha was an enlightened being. He understood how to act in a very positive and a proper way. The Buddha agreed to help this young mother if she could bring to him a bag of white mustard seeds. The Buddha would help this mother. However, there was one condition. This one condition is that the mother should bring a bag of white mustard seeds to the Buddha. Otherwise, the Buddha could not help the young mother. The Buddha was so clever. He discovered the technique to comfort the young mother. He understood that it was not easy to comfort a mother who lost her only child. Therefore, the Buddha used the convenient way to help anyone asking for solution of life. However, she had to obtain these mustard seeds from a house where no member had ever died. The Buddha would help this young mother if this young mother could bring a bag of white mustard seeds to the Buddha. But where should this bag of white mustard seed come from? The condition is the young mother had to obtain these mustard seeds from a house where no member of the house had ever died. In other words, if a house which had any member died before, then this young mother should not bring the white mustard seeds from this house to the Buddha. And the Buddha would not help the young mother. The young mother was requested to obtain these mustard seeds from a house where no member had ever died. Buddha used this technique to teach the young mother the nature of life, the fact of life, and the way come out of sorrow, and the way to solve her problems. The distraught mother went from one house to another, asking if anyone had ever died in the house. Distraught means sad, very sad. This very sad mother went from one house to another, asking if anyone had ever died in the house. Because it is the condition that the Buddha asked the young mother, that the young mother should bring a bag of white mustard seeds from a house where had no member died before. This sad mother visited the people from one house to another and asked if anyone in the house had ever died in the house. If no one had ever died in any house, the young mother would ask for the mustard seeds and brought to the Buddha. In the consequence, the Buddha would like to help the young mother and to bring the dead only son back to life. The answer was always positive. Here, the grandfather died 3 years ago. There, the mother died by giving birth to her last child, etc. The young mother was very anxious to bring her dead child back to life. She went to many houses asking if there was anyone who died before in the house. The answer was always positive. Positive is yes. This means that every house had people died before. The young mother could not find any house which had no member of the house died. The answer was always positive. The answer was always yes. Here, the grandfather died 3 years ago. Grandfather is the father of one's father. Grandfather is always older than anyone in the family. Here, the grandfather died 3 years ago. There, the mother died by giving birth to her last child, etc. Give birth to. To give birth to means to deliver a child. There, a grandfather died 3 years ago, and here, this house, its mother died by giving birth to her last child, and so on. So every house had people die before. There was no exception. We could not find any house which had no persons die before. In every house, she was told, the living are few, the dead are many. This young mother visited so many houses, asking for the white mustard seeds on the condition that there was no persons had ever died in the house. Unfortunately, and of course, in fact, the answer was always positive. The householders always answer this young mother, yes, someone in my house died before. So in every house, the people told this young mother, the living are few, but the dead are many. The living people are very few, only a few, maybe less than 5, maybe less than 10, or to the most 15 or 20 members in a house. In every house, she was told, the living are very few, but the dead are many. We cannot compare the number of the different people to the number of dead people. People would die some days after people are burned into the world. After a while, she understood the nature of life. It doesn't need too much time for the young mother to understand the nature of life. The nature of life means the characteristics of life. And here, the nature of life refers to death. Everybody would die someday, sooner or later. It is only in a very short time that the young mother understood the fact of life, the nature of life, the characteristic of life. She returned to the Buddha without the master cease. She was empty in her head. She could not bring any what master cease, because all houses had some people die before. She returned to the Buddha without the master cease. The Buddha comforted her, explaining that death is common to all different beings. Comforted her means consoled her. The Buddha consoled the young mother by explaining that death is common to all living beings. All living beings would die. All living beings could not escape from death. All living beings could not evade from death. All living beings would die someday. And this is the fact. This is the rule of nature. This is the law of nature. The Buddha comforted this young mother by explaining that death is common to all different beings. All different beings would die sooner or later. She understood that the life of human beings flickers like the light of the lamp, and she finally stopped weeping and accepted the death of her only son. After the explanation, the young mother understood that the life of human beings flickers like the light of the lamp. Flickers means moves very quickly. Very quickly. Flickers like the light of the lamp. A lamp has lights, and under the fire, the lamps would flicker its light. The young mother understood that the life of human beings moves so quickly, just like the light of the lamp. And this young mother finally stopped crying, stopped weeping, and accepted the death of her only child. Usually, a person lost his or her beloved son, he or she would feel very sad. And it was not easy to comfort such a person who lost his or her only son. Through the advice, through the teaching, the young mother finally understood that the life of human beings flickers like the light of the lamp. She had nothing to do with the dead only son. She could not bring the life of her only son back to life. Even the Buddha could not bring the corpse back to life. It was totally impossible to have a person gain life again. The life of human beings is so impermanent, and the life would stop sooner or later. There is no way to get rid out of this sadness. Everybody should accept the fact that everybody would die one day. This young mother finally stopped weeping. Weeping means to have the tears fall down from two eyes. The young mother was very sad, and she cried, and she felt the tears from her eyes. After the comfort, after the teaching, the young mother finally stopped weeping and accepted the death of her only son. She understood that everyone would die without any remedy. Although the Buddha was an enlightened being, the Buddha could not help the young mother bring back the life of her only son. We are rushing to the womb. After we are born, we are rushing to the tomb. To the womb, to the tomb. It's a cycle of birth and death. We are entrapped in the cycle of birth and death. We cannot get out of this cycle. We are moving to the womb, and we are also moving to the tomb all the time. Womb is in a mother's stomach, where a child would begin his or her life. And the womb is the most comfortable place a child in infancy would live. A child begins its life in the mother's womb. We are rushing to the womb because of our karma. Our karma would drive us, would push us to the womb to have a new life again after we die. And in a very sad way, that we are moving towards the tomb again. We can say, I don't want to die. We cannot say, I would not die. I will live forever. To live forever is impossible. This is the law of nature. That after a person is born, he is moving towards the tomb. It is also a law of nature that when a person is born, he is moving towards the tomb. And of course, he is moving towards the womb after one dies. This is called samsara. And this is called the cycle of birth and death, the cycle of life. Enlightenment is an alternative to life. After life, after life, after life. We are in the cycle of birth and death. We are ordinary beings. However, the Buddha was full of wisdom to teach us the ways to live out of this cycle of birth and death. The Buddha was full of compassion to teach us the ways, the techniques to live the birth and death, and to stay in the state of no death and no birth. If there is no birth, there will not be death. If there is no death, surely there will be no birth. Because death is the beginning of birth. Birth, on the other hand, is the beginning of death. This is a law of nature. To have birth and the death chasing each other all the time. Enlightenment is an alternative to life after life. Alternative means the choice, means another ways to the original way. Enlightenment is an alternative to life after life. If we don't want to be reincarnated all the time in samsara, we should find the way out of it. We should find the way of getting enlightened. It is only through enlightenment that we can understand the nature of our life, and we can find the ways to stop samsara and the wheel of life. There is no other way to reincarnation. The only alternative is enlightenment. Because enlightenment would help us to understand the reality of our birth and death. And we understand that birth and death would bring sadness to every one of us. And the Buddha was so clever to have this young mother realize the nature of life. Now we are going to tell another story. And from this story, we can understand the importance of mindfulness. During the time of the Buddha, there was a young monk called Danta who did not understand the necessity for mindfulness. In the time of Buddha, there was a young monk called Nanda who did not realize the necessity for mindfulness. In other words, in Buddha's time, there was a young monk. This young monk was called Nanda. Nanda did not understand the necessity for mindfulness. Nanda was too young to understand why an ascetic should have mindfulness, why mindfulness is a must to human beings. One day, Nanda began to cherish the idea of giving his best road to the enlightened teacher, Sankara. Nanda did not understand why he should practice mindfulness. However, one day, Nanda finally began to cherish the idea of giving his best road to the enlightened teacher. To cherish means to treasure, means to get hold of something, means to dear something very highly. One day, Nanda began to treasure his idea of giving his best road to the enlightened teacher Sankara. It is the custom of ancient time that Sangha should ask for food, clothes, and shelter from the lay people. Because a monk is a person devoted to the study and the practice of Buddha Dharma. It is the requirement of a lay person to offer donations to the Sangha. Therefore, Nanda began to cherish the idea of giving his best robe to the enlightened teacher. This enlightened teacher was called Sankara. Nanda was not mindful. Nanda was most infatuated with the idea, thinking that it would be an act of giving charities, giving generosities to a highly developed being. Infatuated means obsessed. O-B-S-E-S-S-E-D. Nanda was most obsessed with the idea. Nanda was occupied with the idea. Which idea? As it is explained in the next sentence. Thinking that it would be an act of great merit. An act of great merit means a behavior of great virtue. If we could help other people, in particular, if we can offer something to the monks, it is regarded that we could have great merit. We could have the value of life and the value of generosity. A spiritually developed being means a being who has wisdom, who has spiritually developed. he thought to himself, by this noble deed, surely I will return again to attain enlightenment. Because he was not yet well trained to mindfully watch the nature of his thoughts, Nanda did not recognize the selfish desire and attachment desire which made him impure. The Buddha thought to himself, by this noble deed, surely I will soon attain enlightenment. Excuse me, it is the young monk who thought to himself, by this noble deed, by this noble behavior, by this virtue, surely I will soon attain enlightenment. Noble means holy. By this holy behavior, surely means definitely. Definitely, I will soon obtain enlightenment. Because I have practiced generosity. Because I have practiced mindfulness. Because I have practiced Buddha Dharma. This noble deed will help one person to attain the state of enlightenment. So in the text, he thought to himself, by this noble deed, surely I will soon attain enlightenment. That means he was so confident that he would enlighten mindfully one day. Because he was not yet well trained to mindfully watch the nature of his thoughts, Nanda did not recognize the selfish desire and attachment which made his intentions impure. The young monk, Nanda, thought to himself, by this noble deed, surely I will soon attain enlightenment, because he was not yet well trained to mindfully watch the conditions of his deeds, the nature of his thought. By this noble deed, the young monk believed that he would soon attain enlightenment, that he would soon attain arahantship, to be fully enlightened in order to live a happy life. Because he was not well trained to mindfully watch the nature of his deeds. Of course, we always pin out the mistakes of other people. We seldom examine ourselves. We seldom try to understand ourselves. Because this young monk, Bhikkhu Nanda, was not well trained, means this donor did not receive formal training for a long time. He was very easy to lose the balance of his mind. Therefore, he said, because he was not yet well trained to mindfully watch the nature of his thought, Nanda had recognized the selfish desire and attachment which made his intentions impure. A person should receive sufficient training in order to attain enlightenment and in order to attain mindfulness. And we understand that usually practicing Buddha Dharma in meditation is a very good way to train oneself to recognize the nature of his thoughts. So, in the text, it reads, he thought to himself, by this noble deed, surely I will soon attain enlightenment. This means that the young monk Nanda was also very ignorant and very ignorant. He did not understand that the real Dharma comes from one's observation of everything. And the young monk was not yet trained. He did not receive enough training in mindfully watching the nature of his thoughts. The young monk finds no way to understand the situations of his life. Watch the nature of his thoughts. Nanda did not recognize selfish desire and attachment, which had his intentions impure. As we said before, Nanda was so happy to have the idea of charity. Nanda was so happy to give donations to the enlightened being. He did not recognize the selfish desire and attachment which made his intentions impure. Thank you. Thank you again.
法界客厅大道场为满足信众的需求，以先进的科技，用影音度众，让学佛的心不必在尘世中追寻。您的发心护持，让本台节目顺利制作，并使你早证菩提，离苦得乐，功德圆满。划拨账号419-56780，户名法界弘法通讯社。